Hi, and welcome to the 267 podcast. I am intern of the 267 project, joined by my usual shadowy puppet master figure.
Organ grinder.
Yeah, organ grinder.
Yes.
I'm also joined by, are we going to go for music legend Josh Pyle?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's how I class myself.
He sort of thought that was talking about him then.
He was going,
Yeah.
And general legend.
Oh,
James
right.
Manning.
That's a good comeback. That's a good
I
comeback.
like it.
I like that.
Yeah. So we've got an opening question, which I'm now realising I'm going to have to manoeuvre between three people. Mike, if Josh was a meal, which meal would he be? Josh, if James Manning was a meal, which meal would he be?
Okay.
James Manning, if Mike was a meal, which meal would he be?
I'm going to go, because I've only just got to know Josh recently last bit, I think he'd be one of those tortilla wraps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you get quite a lot in it, and sometimes from the outside it doesn't look like much. When actually, what's in it...
Don't have to take that, right?
Well, but there is, because I don't really know him, but then the more you get to know Josh, the more you realise he's quite a lot in him.
So a personal...
Yeah,
personal
this isn't
way.
just chicken in there, this is like mayo and lettuce and salsa
That's
and
good.
sour cream and grated no, not sweet corn,
Yeah,
grated
let's not
cheese,
go sweet corn.
red onion, all of that.
Oh, that's
Also,
good.
once again, as often, Catherine is lurking in the background and may occasionally chime in.
Lurking is the best word to describe
Yes.
her. She's a lurker.
Yeah, great. So, yeah. Are you taking that? Is that your...
I'll take. That's alright. I like that. At the start, I was a
I
bit
thought you
offended,
meant
but
just
then
like a plain wrap at first.
Oh,
and that was
Just the wrap.
just that.
just the most basic food in the world.
Plain, boring. No, I wouldn't say that. You got to think of James as a meal.
James.
Okay. From what I know of James, I've seen him talk a couple of times at a few and stuff.
Just say beefcake. You'd be really happy.
Well, I was
with
going to go steak or something.
I would
but
agree.
yeah, either that or like a spicy meal. Like you're quite funny and like I don't know how to describe it. You're very you've got a very good personality. So something spicy, like a spicy Nando's.
A little bit of kick.
Yeah.
Spice Nando's, I'll take that.
And you like the whole Mexican spice thing, don't you?
Oh,
That's quite...
mhm.
He's
That's why
done
I
you
married
well there.
Sam.
There you go, man.
She's Mexican.
You got to think of me now.
I know you. So, I was thinking, I think that, and bear with it, I went into Subway just before a panto at Christmas, and I had the Subway sub, which I thought was going to be just standard. Wait for it. And it turned out it was just so I thought it was just going to be standard, but it was one of the best things I ever had in my life. So you're not just standard, Mike,
Thanks, man.
but on the inside you got some beautiful filling.
But on the outside, very standard.
Very standard. Just blending in.
Yeah. Ordinary.
But an extraordinary God
Thanks, man.
that
I'll
you're
say that.
serving.
Own that. Thanks, man.
Great. So today we're going to be chatting a bit about worship, and in particular how we present our worship in a way that isn't about ourselves, I guess,
That's a good word.
or a way that's focused on God, maybe more so. Which is why we brought a man who does a lot of worship at church
A lot
and
of worship.
various events.
Yeah, I'm leading a lot more of the worship at my church, but I kind of fill in everywhere really. I played bass this morning and con and stuff. So, but yeah, I lead at Fuel sometimes and at my church usually, and our youth group a lot as well. So yeah, sort of getting all the worship experience. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you're sort of the Swiss Army knife of worship bands.
I'm not great at everything, but I'll play. But I'm mostly a guitarist. But you know, if they need me on bass or con or whatever they need me on, then I'll fill in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember a couple of years ago we were having some kind of chat and you decided, you know what, I'm actually going to step back from worship. And I know more recently, in the past sort of few months especially, you've really decided actually I'm going full on for helping out with worship and getting involved. Why is it that you've decided to make that sort of switch?
I think I stepped back because I was in a time where I was struggling, and like obviously worshiping while you're struggling is great and everything, but I felt like I was kind of lying when I was singing the lyrics. So that was quite hard, and I sort of stepped back a bit.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's difficult because if you're singing, you know, God, you're amazing, but inside you're going, oh, this really sucks. My life really hurts right now. Then it's quite difficult. So that's why I stepped back. But then I started growing a lot as a person, and I've been through a lot in that year and everything, and met loads of amazing people, and I sort of, God kept on pinching at me to pursue this worship thing. So yeah, I sort of decided to step up and was like, I might as well take what God's telling me to do and ride with it, I guess. Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Love that. And that must translate across any bit of serving in the church, isn't it? If you're not quite right yourself with God, actually, when you're trying to serve, it always feels like you're a little bit lying to yourself a little bit, isn't it? Because even though from the outside, everybody else looks at you and think, oh, you're great, Mike, you're great, James, you're great. But actually, you know what's going on. And I think sometimes it does catch up with you, and you almost get God sort of pulls you down, gives you a little bit of a shake and a dust off, and he puts you back on your feet. But it's that moment where actually you realise, no, actually, I need to be completely genuine about that. And I think it is, you said vulnerable, I said it's quite a brave thing to do. Because I bet there's a bunch of people, and I think I've probably done it, that you live the lie because it's easier, and
it's easier.
You don't want people to see you as weak or whatever like that. So, fair play to you, Josh, I have to say.
And I think, interestingly, it almost is already a counterpoint to what I guess the argument is of sort of worship can only be about God kind of thing. Because I think that is it. It's if you're not worshipping up the front from a genuine place, that makes it less about God, while it also being a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I think it's very much about, like you said, about performing and stuff. It's very much about serving God and not serving the song. So it's doing it in a way that is purely for God and trying to help other people worship, instead of doing it in a way that might make you look like a good musician or whatever. Like, it's really hard getting the balancing act of playing in a way that helps other people worship, like not getting the chords wrong and distracting people, but also playing in a way that it isn't a performance. It's finding that balance that I definitely struggled with, like especially when I was trying to sort of work out who I was the last couple of years, and I was a bit like feeling like it was a performance and just going through the motions because it was easy to play the songs, and that was what I was doing. But so it's a challenge.
And what are the voices that are speaking into that, Josh, in terms of, because I remember having someone we worked with who was a worship leader, and she was a phenomenal technical musician, but I would say they struggled to lead people in worship. And is that almost, actually, you could be the best musician ever, technically, but actually what is the difference that makes it someone that can lead others in worship? What's that sort of switch?
I think it's people who can let go, and it's letting go of the fact that you're in front of a big group of people, and the fact that you're playing some technical songs and stuff. Like, it's the people who can just sort of isolate their skill set from that and just do it in a way that they just be like, God, you take control, which is it's very difficult. Like, I've like the year when I was sort of trying to step back a bit, I was doing everything right and playing everything right and doing technical stuff, but that was it. My head was down. I was doing that. And now leading worship and stuff at church and at youth group and stuff, it's more of a case of letting God lead it, not getting you lead it, kind of thing. So
I guess jumping over to James quickly, and probably not so quickly once I get you talking. You are, which will be in the past by the time this podcast is out, doing a talk for us at our Refueled conference.
I was about to plug that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in the past
Coming
now.
Saturday.
But I hope you came. I'm sure it was great.
I bet it was great.
Yeah.
Worship must be
I reckon it was great.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it was great. I think you were great.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Last week at Refueled, you were great.
Whoa. Revival.
I mean, a week is really
Prophecy.
hopeful for...
Yes. Okay.
But anyway.
In 2019 at Refueled, you were amazing.
Great. So, you're doing a talk about
Yeah.
keeping God on the throne of your heart, if
Yes,
that's right?
That's correct.
Good, I didn't write
Great
the schedule. So, I know it's not as much worship, but it's related to the topic of sort of keeping God at the focus, and that you do a lot of serving in the church. For people who don't know, James basically leads all the youth ministry at High Street Methodist in Harpenden.
That's great.
So, and you also talked for us at Fuel a couple of times, and are a man of many talents.
Many.
Yeah. So, how would you say that you keep God on the throne of your heart while leading?
Yeah, I think it's important that already mentioned that it is an up and down kind of thing, keeping your heart in the right place. But kind of going back to what you were saying about, I think worship has to, you're kind of facilitating, aren't you? Facilitating, helping others come into worship. So I was at a worship event yesterday, and there's people at the front, but actually everyone is leading in a strange way because everyone's heart is pointing towards the Lord. And I think how do we keep God at the center is knowing that we don't run the ministries that He's put us to partner with Him in. So I went to America last year, and that was when breakthrough happened, when my 2 interns were leading it, not when I was there. And God was teaching me, it's like, you don't lead it, but I do. And I think coming to that place of accepting, I'm here to say yes to God for what He wants me to do, but also knowing that in the bad times of personal emotions or mental health, that He is still so faithful to help us go through them valleys, I guess, because it's important that we're in the right place, but His Holy Spirit governs all of it.
Charles, what are you thinking about sometimes the distractions that we have, whether it be how good we are? I remember about 5 years ago, I was at the Youth Work Conference when it used to be in sleepy Eastbourne, and I think it was Beth Croft leading worship, and she was singing 10,000 Reasons, and there was a massive power cut across the entire building. So basically lights went out, obviously everything on stage went out, projector went out, and she carried on singing. She belted it out, and then the whole 1,200 youth workers were singing 10,000 Reasons. I kid you not, that was the best bit of worship I've probably been involved in a decade.
Yeah.
And there was just something about everything had been pulled away. So the clever slides, a full band of 12 people, everything else that we get, and there was something about that utterly stripped down thing that was quite powerful. And so I do wonder whether actually, obviously we want to take advantage of the wonderful technologies we've got, but I wonder whether how do you remove those distractions so that actually it's you and God. So is the distractions how good you are musically? Is the distractions your heart that we were saying? And I wonder what other things get thrown at us, because as a preacher I sit there and my biggest thing that gets thrown at me is when you hear another preacher and you think, I wish I could be as good as them. But it isn't about that. It's about how God uses me rather than me comparing. Because, as we know, comparison, the thief of joy, as someone told me, and it is that comparison could be a distraction. So, what sort of thing do you think could be a distraction when you're leading, Josh?
Really weirdly, I was thinking whilst James was talking about leaving space is one of the most powerful things. Like the moments where it's just the church singing. Like I think it's amazing when they are carrying it.
So no instruments.
Yeah. So like after a sort of big chorus, or whatever, just drop out and there's people singing. That's really powerful. But yeah, I mean, some of the best worship. The worship that I've got the most from, and seen other people get the most from, for me is even at like Deep and stuff, which is our youth group, where it's 10, 15 of us just like
in
how
small
close
room,
you are,
yeah.
and it's one acoustic guitar or something like that.
Powerful.
Mm.
Pure.
Because obviously going to Soul Survivor is great, and going to these big festivals is great, and having this big music is amazing, but it's no different to being in your church with one guitar, one piano.
Yeah.
It's not. God's not going, that's more holy.
No, absolutely.
And it's inspiring to go to those events, like going to all these big conferences and stuff. Really inspires me as a musician to be like, I could try that out, or this could work, or that could work. But yeah, it's all about as long as you're happy in what you're doing worship wise, that's all that matters. As long as you're taking into account other people's view can be distracting actually as well, when it's like it's just some older people in the congregation are like less drums, or people like more this, more that. It can be, but as long as your heart's in it, you can't really go wrong. Like, as long as it's
a hard thing,
yeah, it is. It's all about the feel of it. That's what I'd say.
Do you think there's an element of so I think me and James have had a discussion about this before. One of the great things about mine and James's friendship is that other than agreeing that Jesus is Lord, we generally disagree on every other topic.
It is true.
You go to the same gym though.
Pardon?
You go to the same gym.
Yeah, that's true.
And the same
I've been
tattooist.
once, but he's been a couple more times.
Same tattooist you go to.
Yeah. We've got the same tattoo. Yeah.
Is it one half? Is it two halves?
That's right.
So when you stand next to each other on your shoulders.
It's just love.
Yeah. It's love everywhere.
Love is all around.
It's true.
Where was I? I had a point there somewhere, but it got taken away. Yeah, about whether, so leading on from what Josh was saying, about whether Soul Survivor is a group of people worshipping or is it a show?
That's a really,
That's a
really
big one.
controversial point.
And I love Soul Survivor as an event. and I also have got a lot out of the worship there, and I've also stood there other years and gone, at the moment this feels like I'm watching
A gig.
any other gig.
Yeah.
The thing that I struggle with is when someone would put on a worship night, whatever, but then charge money for people to come and see it. I really struggle with that.
Like Rain Collective, their concerts are so expensive.
We're calling you out, Range.
Rend.
But are you there going to a worship venue, or are you going to a gig?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
So that could be a gig because you are going to a gig venue and you know that. Whereas actually, Soul Survivor.
Do you worship at the gig,
Well-
or do you just watch their music?
It's difficult because like
Watch them worship.
because Soul Survivor, I'd say is going to there to worship, but like me and my mate Bailey went to a proper gospel night thing, and it was like you paid money for it and stuff, and they were like talking about praying during it, and like there was a motivational speaker during it, but it was that there's the fine line between what is a gig, a show, and what is a conference. Although you can worship in anything. Like I worship when I play with my band outside of church. That's how one of the ways that I worship. But yeah, I guess when you watch people, you sort of know I'm here to enjoy it, or I'm here to do the worship.
Yeah, and I think it's coming to that heart motive of what is worship. Because actually, I think worship is every day, every minute, every second of our lives. So ultimately, this is worship because we're glorifying God through our chat. When we are in Fuel later, we're going to be in that session of musical worship, and that is worship. But I think too, it's our heart motive. But too, we got to be so careful of like judging, right? Because I think if Rain Collective, for example, are there to be like, we're going to worship, but people are going to help fund it because we're hiring an arena.
Amen.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, I get that.
And also, if people just want to go for a gig because the Christians have invited their friends to come to it,
Yep.
they don't know it's worship, but they are actually encountering God through that. I think it's awesome.
I have to say, I'm probably going back on what I said now. So I've seen Third Day 4 times and Switchfoot twice, who were sort of big American Christian rock bands. And I would say I paid to go there, and it was a gig, but particularly the Third Day one, there was some of the most amazing times of worship. So I think it's a hard one, because when you're going somewhere where you know it's an act of worship in the sense of a festival or church, and you feel that it's a performance, that can be a struggle. Whereas if you're going to a gig and you almost get worship as a bonus, you're almost like, I love that. Whereas actually, if you feel like they're performing and you're almost a third party, now I think that's a struggle. But then, like you said, James, you don't want to call people on this because you don't know what their heart is, because that goes back to our first point of my worry sometimes could be of actually the perfectionist nature of some of the bigger things we go to. That it almost has to be, particularly some of the things you. So I love Bethel and I love Hillsong, but you look at it and it is so polished, and it's so
technical,
and looks so good. And that's not mean you can't worship to it, because I love it. But I do wonder then, what's our approach to that? How do we find ourselves?
So for example, to do with that, we in our Christmas service, in our Alternativity, which is one of our Christmas services.
That's a good name.
It's a really good name.
Right.
I don't know who came up with it,
Alternativity.
but it was good, wasn't it?
Stealing that.
Jesus had a mohawk.
There you go. One of the songs we used a backing track just for one of them to like sort of fatten out the sound, and I struggled with that because it didn't leave space, like I said before.
Right.
Like it, you know, when you have those spontaneous moments, people just singing out anything. It doesn't having a backing track, which a lot of these big bands, some Bethel do. It's quite hard because I feel like you're just standing there and going through the motions. As we said at the start, like going through the motions is the easy thing. But it doesn't say people can't worship to that. But yeah, things like that I struggle with at shows when I know that there's a backing track or it's not. But that's just personal choice. Like everyone has personal choice in worship.
Because we all listen to CDs, don't we? And they're all manufactured.
Exactly.
Do you know what's interesting? I've listened to Josh twice, and obviously he's a musician and I'm not. He's used the ways fattening out and dropping out. 2 very cool music things. I realise if we ever said them, we'd just look idiots. But he gets away with saying it. Fattening out the sales and dropping out during worship.
I fatten out at Christmas.
I mean, I fatten out daily.
I fatten out in worship at Christmas.
Eating is an act of worship.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, controversial.
Yeah, I guess to jump back on the fence, where I kind of like to sit on this topic. What is then the difference between Rain Collective charging to pay for a gig and then Soul Survivor charging you to attend? Like, is there really much of a difference?
Are you paying for the worship though at Soul Survivor?
I don't.
I think you're paying for this facility.
The main thing you're paying for at Soul Survivor is the event being run, and the main event is worship.
I think it's a bit of everything, isn't it? Because Rain Collective would hire out places, and they need money to do that. and to help them travel to do what they're called to. So in a way, you're kind of supporting what they do to help them do what they do. And then with Souls Fibre, they hire out a massive place for not 5 days,
4
loads
weeks,
of days.
yeah.
And it's like, it's supporting that, and I think going there, wanting to experience God and connect with Him. I think it depends on your heart, right? If you're going there for a gig, is it worth it? Awesome. If you're going there for worship,
That was literally still the words from my mouth of, I think maybe we're putting almost too much emphasis
Yeah.
on the band and saying it's about their motivations, and maybe it's more about the motivation of the individual who's worshipping.
Yes.
Are you
So
going
true.
to Ren Collective looking for a gig, because you'll probably find a good gig at Ren Collective?
Yeah, you will.
Or are you
Exactly.
going looking for a night of worship? Because I'm sure you'd find that there too.
Yeah, great
Well,
one too.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously, as I said before about like sort of having preferences. For example, I find it hard to worship to Ren Collective because it's very fast, and that's not how I worship. I like reflective worship, and other people.
Me too.
But then other people are really, really like hyped on it and love that, and they find the slow stuff really boring. So it is difficult, and people have the preferences which would sort of link to the performance of the band, I guess. So that's always a challenge as well, I think.
I think it goes full circling in what we're talking about heart, because I think, and I apologise for every person that's ever led worship when I've been in a room, some of the closest moments I felt for God have probably been through my iPod with my headphones in. I've
Why?
recorded. I don't know. I don't know whether it's for me is the public worship I struggle with. I don't know. Again, it's not, again, what Ben just said, it's not about the person leading the worship, it's about how I approach it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I don't often feel comfortable, whereas actually if I'm sitting on the top of a mountain or by the side of the sea and I've got my headphones in and I've got, I don't know, I particularly like, Bethel or Jesus Culture or something like that, I feel incredibly worshipful. Whereas actually sometimes in a room, I feel slightly awkward, and maybe that's my issue.
I'm definitely not a hand raiser.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
not
know
me.
what
I'm
to
a
do.
full-on
So,
hand
You're a
raiser,
full-on
jumping up
sweaty
and down.
pizza here. Just
Oh yeah.
yeah, I love that.
Okay.
and maybe that's
I wish I
again,
could
that's
do
just how we're all different again,
Yeah.
Because I can't worship to Rend. I love Rend,
Yeah,
but
I
for me,
enjoy it,
they're
yeah.
like, that's going on stage,
I'll have a jump up
seeing
and down,
them
right?
jump up and down. Whereas actually, it's weird, isn't it? We're very similar in reflective worship type things, but I don't know. It's a good conversation to have.
Hmm.
I guess to stop the risk of us just continually going in this loop, I'm now going to ask you, I guess, the final big question, and I want an answer from each of you.
Ooh, okay.
Keeping in mind that everyone's different, it's about personal motivation, and it's about the motivation of the band, and it's about his money being charged, and all these things we've mentioned.
Is it that Marmite peanut butter is about to come out?
Yes, that too.
Is that too?
Wow.
What is?
I
Sorry,
did not know that.
Oh, sorry. We can do another.
No, it's fine.
Do you know what? Scrap my question.
No, I want to hear your question.
Let's
now.
do
You
the
built
last
it
5
up.
minutes on this.
You built it up. Let's go.
Sorry, babe. Go on.
Marmite peanut butter, satanic? Yes or no?
Yes.
No. Great. So, what is the thing you would change about how either big church or small church does worship?
Oh.
And I'll give you 30 seconds to think about this while I chat to Catherine.
About Marmite peanut butter.
Catherine,
Hey, pal.
you're not a fan of Marmite, right?
No.
Cool, we'll scrap that. Just had your dinner there while listening to us, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
What do you have?
Just 2 bits of piece of bread. Very
Loving
simple. With just a pot of hummus.
Very nice.
Hummus or hummus?
Hummus.
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 Have you got an
Hummus.
answer, Mike?
Hummus.
Have you got an answer?
Did I
Yeah,
ask
hummus,
you
not hummus.
your opinion?
What can we do differently?
Hummus.
Again, so we're going back. This is
Hummus.
not what I want to change for everyone, but my personal frustrations
Mhm.
that I'd like to change is people telling me what to do. So the worship leader will say, everyone put their hands up.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
everyone hold your hands like that. So I understand that they want to try and coax people out to be more relaxed, but I want space. So Josh saying actually leaving space and dropping out,
Dropping
all of
out.
that. I think that is what we need to do more, is creating spaces for God to move rather than us finishing a song and then waiting for the next song.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm just like, I've got to do 3 songs. So I'm looking up thinking, well, at our church we do 3 songs, we break, and then we do another 2 songs. So I'm sitting there going, oh, it's the 3rd song, thank goodness for that, because it's not a song I like. So my brain's not in the right place. Whereas if you can create an environment where time is not an issue, where it's not just about finishing a song, going verse, chorus, I think then you create a space for God to really meet with you.
That is a correct answer.
Yes.
5 points.
5 points.
5?
Yeah.
It's the most points I've ever got in my life.
Well done.
Well done.
Good job.
It's like a
Shows-
bingo.
And you're winning technically, because none of us have answered.
Yeah, if we end the podcast now.
Yes. And goodbye. Thank you,
Keep this
listener.
going next week and you might get a sticker.
It's like being a dentist.
I'd agree with Mike. I think people rush. My first response is going to be as we've been chatting about Soul Survivor and stuff like that, so that's the thought in my mind. I think they do it great, because what Mike's Pilavachi's focus is always, the longer we wait, the more the Spirit does.
Mm.
And I think we just need to give space for the Spirit. We're such a microwave generation of like, Holy Spirit, will you come and answer my prayers? Okay, thanks, bye. Like a vending machine. And actually, it's not about that. It's about perseverance and love and relationship. And relationship deepens through intimacy and connection. It's like marriages aren't built on a one-time event. It has to be an everyday thing. It's choosing every day. So I do think that it has to be create in a beautiful place of worship, but also contextualized worship. And what I mean by that is making it sound, and I guess being a 24-year-old, like the music sounds today. And I think Soul Survivor does a great job with that. I think, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan. I can connect to God in like traditional acts of worship with organs and choirs, because as Josh was mentioning, it's kind of, you connect with God and you're able to look and reflect on the words. But I don't think hurrying it up, we don't need to hurry, we just need to be. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay.
Right.
You've had extra time to think.
I
so
have,
it should
so
be a
it
better
should be a good
answer.
answer.
And you're the worship guy.
And I'm the worship guy, technically, yeah, in this room.
The guy.
I struggle with the idea that the worship leader's put on a pedestal, and whether that's a Soul Survivor where some people idolise the worship leader, and I think that's really wrong, or even the front of church where someone will listen to worship and the whole time be going, I'm not good enough to do this worship, I'm not good enough to, I want to lead but I can't, and I did that for years, being like, I can't do this is like, I'm just jealous of what they're doing. And it's first the church just needs to act and see the passion of young people, and allow space for them to do worship in whatever way they want to do it, if that's serving tea or if that's welcoming people, or if that's playing at the front, and sort of getting rid of this idea that worship is just music and the guy or girl leading the music is of more importance than the rest of us, because without the congregation it'd be pretty useless, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's good.
that's what I'd say. Yeah.
Got a couple of minutes. I think we've got time for a cheeky extra question.
Oh, lovely.
That's
Can
right.
Have you got one?
I've got one, but if you've got a better one.
No, I'm curious. So the word intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those really difficult churchy words, because I feel uncomfortable about the word. But actually,
I can give you a big hug.
Yeah.
but actually behind it, like you said, connection straight afterwards. I think that is the key, isn't it? That actually, if I'm guarded in my relationship with God, if I'm not fully opening myself, that it doesn't matter how great the worship is.
Yeah.
And so intimacy is a really good word to explore. But actually, a lot of us, the whole idea of intimacy is tarred with loads of other stuff. So I think, I don't want to be intimate with God. But actually, I think that'd be really worth, probably not this podcast, but actually all those things of how do we connect with God in a way that is quite unnatural for us as humans, I think would be really powerful, because it is that connection is where you see, what was it David was after God's heart, that whole idea of search me, so that I may know you. I think that would be really good to say, actually, how do we do that? Because that is what we're talking about.
Cool.
I was just thinking about that word intimacy, it's a struggle.
I think
What
I
was your
agree.
question?
No, I'll just segue in. I'll link in and take the points I want from my own question. It's right that I think on the connection word of sort of how we're connecting with God, almost I worry that how we've spoken about in this podcast, we've talked about worship as sort of the times I've got a lot out of worship, or the times I've received from God during worship, when worship in definition is the opposite of the times I was given to God, the times I felt. So I think on the word connection, I really like it because it's almost more just neutral in the way of saying, actually, it's just having a conversation. It's not. I really felt like God got a load of gifts from God tonight. What a great act of worship for me. Because really, you've just taken a bunch of stuff. But great. Oh, James is in.
Oh, God.
Yeah, worship is never about us because he's worth the worship. And at Refueled, we're going to be talking about this exact thing. But actually, it's the one thing we can give without actually trying to receive. Reading our Bible, we're like, oh, I want to know stuff about God, or when we're in prayer, I'm praying for this to happen for me or the people I know or the world. But worship is, God, you're worthy, and it's never a transactional thing of I'm only coming to God because I need this thing. But actually, no matter what situation we're in, good or bad, he's always worthy because of what he's already done on the cross. You know, I think it says, doesn't it, as well, that I'm probably paraphrasing, when we take one step towards him, he'll take a step towards us. And, you know, not getting into too deep theology of who goes first, but when we open God, I want you, he's going to take 10 steps to run towards us, just like the prodigal son, you know, of just, he's just going to come and love us. And we just need to be like, God, you're worthy.
Amazing. Josh, do you want to have any last thought?
What I was thinking when James was talking was that the best forms of worship, at least for me, were when I just said, God, do your thing. Like, I wasn't like, God, I want this to happen or that to happen, or I want this in my life. Like, I remember going to Soul Survivor and just being like, God, do whatever. And that's when he knocked me over and whatever. But, you know, exactly. But it's like, it's letting go and leaving space are the two sort of main things I'd say to do with worship and to do with worshipping. Sort of leave space for God in your everyday life. And as James said earlier, you can worship every second of every day. You doing whatever. So leaving that space and sort of letting go of what you want and realising God's got the best for you.
And then maybe the byproduct of that will be actually we see God more than just in the times when we're meeting in an act of worship. If we're open to the idea, say, God, have your way, like you were saying, actually God can meet me walking down the street, anywhere, and then comes that connection, isn't it? Rather than saying, actually, it's Sunday, it's my time to meet with God.
Yeah.
Whereas if we switch it around, like you were saying, and say, God, do what you want.
It's a challenge, though, definitely.
Absolutely.
It's hard to wake up and the first thing on your mind be God. It'll be, the alarm's gone off, I've got to go to work, or this, that, or the other.
Instagram.
Exactly, go straight on your phone. Like, it's difficult, but it's a challenge that I'm struggling with now. But,
Cool. I think that is a good challenge to leave for the people listening with, is spend the rest of your day trying to do some small acts of worship rather than just big ones.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thanks for coming and fixing how the church does worship.
Yeah, we've solved it now, guys.
Amen. Let's go.
Now, Mike, do you want to...
Am I still singing the jingle?
Yeah, of
Have we
course.
not punished it enough?
Josh, do you want to give us a bass line?
What?
How'd you go again?
I
This is the 267 podcast in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the night.
I'm sorry.